Hello my friends, in today's video we will be comparing Sony A7 III and Nikon Z6 II. These are the first and possibly the last cameras based around Sony's IMX410 sensor. A7 III basically started the whole era of complete hybrid full-frame cameras back in 2018. It is still one of the most popular cameras on the market. Nikon released the Z6 II 2.5 years after the A7 III, so in this video we will try to find out whether they were able to use that time to provide a better overall package. Both A7 III and Z6 are very compact. A7 III is about 1 cm narrower. 25-gram weight difference is negligible. The size difference is noticeable, but it is definitely not massive. Both are generally well made. Z6 II has an edge in terms of the build quality, mostly because of the rubberized surface. A7 III is also fine and it feels solid. My only complaint is a bit thinner coating. The weather sealing is probably better on Nikon as well. A7 III has a weak point on the bottom side, but it will survive a reasonable amount of rain. As I mentioned, both cameras use Sony IMX410 full-frame PSI sensor. This is a well-known 24-megapixel sensor commonly used in hybrid mirrorless cameras such as these two, and also in Panasonic's S line. Nikon had some processing issues with the first generation of the Z6, but those are fixed now. The ISO performance is basically identical. The differences are only caused by the ISO scale tuning. ISO 3200 is very clean on both and perfectly usable. There is some noise at ISO 6400, but it is still usable for the majority of publication platforms. ISO 12800 is still usable, you will see some noise, but it is okay for online publishing. ISO 25600 is an emergency option. Dynamic range is also identical. IMX410 is still a benchmark in terms of the dynamic range, which is outstanding. You can recover a lot of information from both shadows and highlights without introducing the noise. It gives you a lot of flexibility for editing, especially in challenging HDR situations. You can basically do whatever you want to with RAWs from both cameras. The colors from Z6 II are significantly toned down in comparison to the original Z6. They are more accurate and actually very similar to A7 III, which is a good thing. Nikon prefers slightly colder tones in some situations, and the output is still more vibrant by default. Having said that, you can always match the output from A7 III and Z6 by adjusting 1 or 2 global settings sliders. I probably still prefer Sony's accurate approach, but it is a draw in terms of the color science. The autofocus is an area where Nikon still can't match Sony. In the stills mode, both are 100% accurate and extremely fast in usual situations. The differences are mostly visible in more difficult situations. Z6 II can still hesitate a little bit in the low light. It is also not completely confident in low contrast scenarios where you might see some hunting. A7 III doesn't really care. It is 100% reliable in any kind of situation, regardless of the light or the contrast. Again, if you mainly shoot in good conditions, Nikon will perform very well. One more thing that I like more on Sony is that you will always get clear visual confirmation of the focus acquisition with those green squares. Nikon only shows you that red circle, so you just have to trust it. Video autofocus with Nikon is very accurate and very smooth in most situations, but it is a little bit slower. I actually like this approach. It is definitely better than fast autofocus with hunting. On the other hand, if you are looking for this kind of ultra-fast video autofocus, that is not possible with Z6 II. The tracking in good light conditions is actually really good with Nikon, so that is very nice to see. Sony is also 100% accurate in video. The speed and responsiveness depends purely on the settings. It can be slow and smooth or very fast and snappy, you can easily adjust that. Again, Nikon will be fine in most situations, whereas the A7 III will be fine in all situations. Regarding the in-body image stabilization, Z6 II IBIS is more effective. Having said that, I still think that the A7 III IBIS is underrated and it performs really well overall. The behavior of the in-body image stabilization is a little bit different. Z6 II is kind of trying to fix the frame in place. That actually leaves a bit of this busy jitter in the video. The A7 III is mostly just smoothing out the movement, so the whole frame moves more, but those small vibrations are less visible. Both are more than sufficient for basic static shots and for panning at wider focal lengths. One specific situation where I prefer Sony IBIS is the gimbal use. As I mentioned, the A7 III is mostly just smoothing out the footage, whereas the Z6 is trying to fix the image in place, which causes a bit of lag and makes the gimbal operation more difficult. Both cameras also provide excellent body-to-size stabilization ratio. Z6 II is a bit more effective, A7 III is a bit smaller, so I'm quite happy with both in this regard. Regarding the video specs, both cameras can shoot 4K video downsampled from 6K. Sony can do that up to 25p, Nikon up to 30p. Internal capture is limited to 8-bit on both, but as I've explained, that is sufficient for SDR publishing, especially with the right picture profile. In terms of the video processing, I'm happy with both. Sony video seems to be a bit more detailed, but that also depends a lot on the sharpening settings, so that is definitely not a big deal. Both cameras shoot very detailed 4K video. Nikon can also shoot 4K at 60p, but only with 1.5 times crop and significant loss of image quality. That is a limitation of the sensor readout, but it is still better than nothing. Nikon can also shoot 10-bit video and N-Log externally. It is definitely a nice feature. N-Log is not as flat as other log profiles, but it is pretty easy to work with as long as you set the colors right in camera. Considering that the Z6 II was released in 2020, I think that it should have offered internal 10-bit video and log. Z6 II also has quite nice flat picture style, which offers a good compromise between the dynamic range and ease of post-production, and I actually prefer it over the N-Log for most situations. Sony has a plenty of picture profiles as well, including Picture Profile 8, which is still my most favorite semi-flat picture style in combination with Gamma changed to Cine 4. It is very easy to work with and I really like the colors in this picture profile. One annoying video feature of Z6 II is that you can't use manual ISO if you want to shoot in aperture priority. Regarding the handling, Z6 II has a slightly larger grip with nicer texture. A7 III grip is also fine in my opinion, and it will fit most hand sizes pretty well. A7 III offers a lot more buttons, more dials, and more customization options. First of all, I much prefer the position of AF on button on A7 III. Z6 II forces me to twist my thumb and loosen the grip to reach it. A7 III offers 12 customizable buttons that are logically positioned on the backside and on the top. Z6 II only offers 6 customizable buttons, 2 of which are on the front side. You can't reprogram the zooming buttons or the buttons on the D-pad. A7 III also has an extra dial on the backside, which is useful for changing the ISO or navigating the menu. One thing that I greatly appreciate on Nikon though is the still/video switch, which allows you to have separate settings for stills and video. Z6 II also has a really nice top LCD, which might be useful for some users. I would be happy to trade it for an exposure compensation dial though, which is available on A7 III. Overall, the handling is much better with the A7 III. That might be a bit of a surprise, although the A7 III handling is generally very underrated because of the bad reputation of A7 I and A7 II. On the other hand, the display and the viewfinder are much better on the Z6 II. The display on Z6 II uses 2.1 million dot panel, which is more than twice as much as on the A7 III. It is also slightly larger at 3.2 inches. This is one of the best displays that is currently being used, it is very sharp and the colors are reasonably accurate. A7 III display is definitely outdated. Fortunately, it is pretty bright in sunny weather setting, so it is fine to use in all conditions, but not very enjoyable. Z6 II uses 3.69 million dot viewfinder. That one is also very detailed, bright and color accurate. The magnification is 0.8 times, so it is pretty large. A7 III uses 2.36 million dot viewfinder. The magnification is 0.77 times, so it is also sufficiently large. Much like the display, it is usable but not particularly impressive by 2021 standards. The function menu or I menu is pretty good on both, it is customizable and easy to access. One complaint that I have about the Z6 II I menu is that if you use the touchscreen, you have to confirm everything by pressing the OK button. The main menu is equally bad on both. Sony menu is not very structured, but the order of the items has some logic. Nikon menu is more structured, but it is very difficult to predict what is in the photo shooting menu, video shooting menu, one of the 7 pencil submenus, or in the setup menu. Sony already has a new menu which is available on A7 III, and that one is a huge upgrade over both. I hope that Nikon will do something about their menu as well. Regarding the shooting speed, both cameras can shoot 10 frames per second with autofocus continuous, mechanical shutter, and 14-bit RAW capture. You can also shoot at 12 frames per second on the Nikon with 12-bit RAWs. It is also possible to shoot 14 frames per second with more significant limitations. The buffer on Z6 II is much larger. It can take about 100 RAWs, whereas the A7 III can take about 42 RAWs. The battery life is significantly better on Sony. It is rated for 710 shots, but you can realistically get well over 1000 shots or more than 3 hours of 4K video on a single charge. Z6 II is rated for 410 shots, which is also solid, but the A7 III will last about 40% longer on a single charge. Regarding the lens selection, Sony E-mount lens selection is huge. Sony G Master lenses are excellent, and some of the G lenses are also fantastic. The biggest advantage over the Z-mount lens selection are the third-party lenses. Especially Sigma and Tamron offer great E-mount lens selection with native functionality. Nikon Z-mount lenses are also optically great, but the lens selection is still limited. There are almost no native third-party options. For example, if you want a 24 to 70mm f2.8, you will have to pay more than $2,000, whereas for the E-mount, you can get this excellent Sigma 24 to 70mm f2.8 for about half the price. Overall, the lens selection is still a huge advantage of Sony E-mount and therefore A7 III. Another advantage of the A7 III are upgrade options. If you feel like you need something more capable in a certain area, you can go with video-centric A7S III, FX3, or even FX9. If you want high resolution, there is the A7R IV. If you want a super fast camera, you can go with A1 or A9 series. If you want to upgrade from Z6 II without switching systems, you can go with high-res Z7 II, and that's it at the moment. To sum up, I can say that both are very capable mirrorless hybrid cameras. This time there won't be a clear winner. The output of both cameras is very similar, which makes sense since they use the same sensor. Both are very compact and well-made cameras, although the Z6 II has an edge in terms of the build quality. The main advantages of A7 III are the autofocus in both stills and video, the controls, battery life, lens selection, and strong E-mount ecosystem. The advantages of Nikon are in-body image stabilization, display, viewfinder, buffer capacity, and rubberized surface. It can also shoot cropped 4K 60p and external 10-bit video, but it loses points for mandatory auto ISO in aperture priority. The choice between these two cameras depends on what and how you intend to shoot, or even on the brand that you prefer. If we look at the bigger picture, Sony's ecosystem and overall activity on the market tips the scale in Sony's favor. Nikon can definitely make good cameras, but it's been a long time since they came out with anything innovative. On the other hand, Sony is releasing state-of-the-art cameras such as A1, A7S III, A7R IV, and so on. That is why Sony seems to be a more perspective option. So that's it for this video, thank you for watching, I hope that you liked this video and that you have found it to be useful. Stay tuned for more videos and maybe consider subscribing if you don't want to miss my future content. I appreciate your feedback in form of thumbs up or thumbs down. If you would like to ask anything or share your opinion, please do so in the comment section, and see you next time.